Hello! In this video, I will talk about some Fnaf characters that I consider underrated. My criteria for a character to be underrated is they have to be only in a few games, so characters like William Afton are out and they have to not get a lot of fan art and those types of things from the community, especially when compared to other characters like William Afton. And the most important thing is that they are really good characters that are underappreciated. I will give my reason for why I think these characters are good and why they are underappreciated, and therefore underrated. Some characters on my list are way more underrated than others, but this list isn't in any particular order, just thought I should clarify that. Keep in mind that this is just my opinion, and you are free to comment down your opinion down below. With that out of the way, let's begin the list. Starting off, we have L-Chip. I think L-Chip has an interesting design. He's obviously a reference to Chipper from Scott's game Chippers & Co. I think L-Chip is underrated. He has a lot of potential. For example, he can serve as a competitor to Fazbear Entertainment, and he is a really unpopular character that has a lot of potential. I like his Mexican style, and another restaurant in Fnaf that is not a pizzeria would be a fun shake-up of scenery. I am surprised that L-Chip was not an enemy in some of the Fnaf spin-offs like Fnaf World, because he could have been added in a future update, or for example in the game Freddy in Space 2. I am disappointed that L-Chip is limited to only being an animatronic you can buy in Pizzeria Simulator, and a bunch of advertisements and pictures. Seeing a spin-off with L-Chip's restaurant would be really cool. I don't think L-Chip and his restaurant should have a major part in the lore because, well, that would complicate things more, and how would L-Chip become possessed, for example? Like, for example, imagine the Pizzeria Simulator beginning minigame, but it acted like Puyo Puyo, where you're playing the game while you have an opponent who is also playing the game, and you have to outlast your opponent in order to win. Your opponent being L-Chip, and you, of course, are Freddy Fazbear. I think that would be really cool as a small extra minigame. It would get harder and harder as time goes, and maybe even have some other enemies to spice the gameplay up. Like, how about a Shadow Freddy that chases you so you constantly have to be moving? I personally believe it would be really cool to see a small Freddy Fazbear vs L-Chip minigame. I mean, Pizzeria Simulator had a bunch of minigames, so why not make one where you have to win against your opponent? The evil L-Chip. I feel like it would give L-Chip more character and more of a reason to exist other than having a restaurant that you see the advertisement of from time to time. I don't think there should be a full-on mainline game where L-Chip tries to kill you because that would complicate the lore too much. The next character on my list is Dreadbear. He is the star of the show in Help Wanted's Halloween DLC, and his design is really cool. He's obviously Frankenstein, but Freddy, and I think he's really cool. He has only been in one game, and I get why. He would not fit a mainline game because he is very Halloween themed, which is why he is in the Halloween DLC. His minigame was also really cool, the one where you had to make his brain before time runs out. Like I stated before, he might be hard to add to a new Fnaf game, but I have a few ideas. So you know how there are things like Monty's Golf, Roxy Raceway and Mazercise in the Pizzaplex? Animatronic themed attractions like golf, go-karts and a maze. Well, what if Dreadbear had his own little section in a new game? Like, for example, a spooky ride, but in the middle of the ride something goes wrong and you have to walk the rest of the way when suddenly Dreadbear shows up and chases you to the end. I think that's a really good idea and a fun way to bring Dreadbear back. Another idea is his own section, but instead of a ride, it's a horror attraction, but something goes wrong and Dreadbear ends up chasing you with the intent of murder. Another idea I have is just having Dreadbear be hidden. Like, you know the sewers in Security Breach after you violently murder Chica? What if inside those there was a secret Dreadbear waiting who starts to chase you? I really like Dreadbear's design, and I feel like it would be a waste to just have him in one DLC of one game. He doesn't have any lore relevance, but I think that is a good thing when it comes to Dreadbear, because that means he can fit in many situations, like for example an attraction in Security Breach, or an animatronic in the sewers. Dreadbear is underrated because he appears in one game, even though I think he is an awesome character, and recently there is very little fan art I have seen of him, and I browse the r/Five Nights at Freddy's subreddit daily. There are many ways that Dreadbear can come back, and because he is a cool looking Halloween themed Frank and Freddy, I think he should. The next character I'll be talking about is Phantom Balloon Boy. I am serious, this is not a joke. The Phantom animatronics are all unpopular characters because, well, they're just reskins. But I'll explain to you why I think Phantom Balloon Boy is the best Phantom and why he's underrated. Oh, and by the way, comment down your favorite Phantom in the comments below. I first want to talk about why I think Balloon Boy's design is the best in the Phantom format. Let us compare Phantom Balloon Boy with Phantom Freddy. I feel like Phantom Balloon Boy is scarier than Phantom Freddy because he resembles a human. BB looks, or at least resembles, a small kid. The normal BB isn't scary, but when you add a bunch of green, make him darker and replace his eyes with small white pupils, he becomes very creepy. Freddy, in this case, goes from being a creepy bear animatronic to a green creepy bear animatronic. The point here is that because Phantom Balloon Boy looks like a child, that makes seeing a twisted, gross version of him creepier. Another creepy thing about Phantom Balloon Boy is his mouth. This guy can open his mouth, but in a really weird way. Phantom Balloon Boy can unnaturally stretch his mouth, and honestly I think that's really creepy. Like I said before, Balloon Boy is made to look like a child, and I have a suspicion that children aren't capable of doing this. I think that's why it's so creepy, because BB does something that is very unexpected and it just looks gross and unnatural. So yeah, in my opinion, Phantom Balloon Boy is the best Phantom animatronic. But how could Phantom BB be brought back in some of the new Fnaf games? Well, this is a tough question, because if Phantom Balloon Boy was added in a new Fnaf game, then why shouldn't the other Phantoms be? And what functions would the Phantoms even serve? I mean, a lot of people hated the Phantoms in Fnaf 3, so in my opinion, Phantom BB shouldn't come back in a future game, but in my opinion, he is still underrated. If you have an idea for a cool way for the Phantoms to come back in a future Fnaf game, comment it down in the comments below. The next underrated character is William Afton. I believe William Afton is underrated because, okay, no, that was a joke. The actual next character is Plushtrap. Lately, I have seen zero Plushtrap fan art and zero people talking about Plushtrap. But why? I think he is a really cool character. Instead of those big giant robots that tower over you, Plushtrap is a small doll with murderous intentions. I like the idea of a Fnaf animatronic that is really small, so he's really difficult to keep an eye on and therefore defend from. I really like Plushtrap's design. He just looks like a normal slightly damaged rabbit doll, but there is something really creepy about him. His dark shade of green and his creepy eyes are unnerving when paired together, especially when the area Plushtrap is in is dark. I feel like Plushtrap could have been expanded on. All Plushtrap was used in Fnaf 4 was as a minigame you can play to skip 2 hours of a night. And the minigame was really simple. I have an idea for what Plushtrap could have been used for in the night sections of Fnaf 4. And here it is. I wish that in the night section in Fnaf 4, you could occasionally hear Plushtrap's footsteps. They would be easy to recognize because they're faster, because he's a little nerd running around, and they would be lighter because Plushtrap doesn't weigh as much as the other animatronics. When you heard these footsteps, you would have to look around the room and find Plushtrap. If you didn't find him in time, he would kill you. That's one idea I have for Plushtrap that I came up with in like 2 minutes of thinking about him. So yeah, it might not be the best idea, but I feel like this idea takes advantage of Plushtrap's size, because it would be difficult to find such a small animatronic in the room. Plushtrap is really unique, and this is why I think Plushtrap should get a unique mechanic, aka not the one he got in Ultimate Custom Night, where you just have to go into Funtime Foxy's Pirate Cove, look at him for a few seconds, and he disappears. Come on, that was a lame mechanic. Plushtrap could come back in a future FNAF game. An idea I have is him sneaking up on you, like for example the Endoskeletons or the Mini Music Man, where he randomly appears and quietly runs at you, and if you don't flash him in time, he will jump scare you. This would work best on a big 3D FNAF game like Security Breach, but I think it is a cool idea and a fun way for Plushtrap to come back as an occasional threat that makes the player feel vulnerable at all times, because you never know when Plushtrap could start sneaking up on you. Next up, Fruit Punch Clown. Why? Well, there is a rare chance that when you play his minigame, you will get a rare voice line, where he threatens to murder you.
Tell anyone about this and I cut your throat.
Yeah. Okay, but really, the next character is Phone Dude. No, I'm not joking. Phone Guy was always the most popular out of these two. He had way more fan art, even though we never got to see how he looks like. And I admit, I prefer Phone Guy to Phone Dude. But why is Phone Dude so unpopular? I have seen very little talk about him, and honestly, I think he's a really cool character. His personality is different from Phone Guy, which I appreciate because, well, it's something different. Phone Dude is more laid back and chill. He uses less professional language. It's kinda hard to explain, but it seems like Phone Dude is actually more excited when he talks to you than Phone Guy. It's a shame he was only in 2 nights in FNAF 3. He was a nice change up from the Phone Guy we got in FNAF 1 and 2 and 3. But unfortunately he is much less popular. And it might be because he only appears in 2 nights, but oh well. Phone Dude also gives a good explanation on how to use your equipment. He seems like a cool, laid-back young adult, especially when compared to Phone Guy. Phone Dude had a fun personality that few other characters in the franchise could best. And that is why I think Phone Dude is underappreciated and underrated. But how could Phone Dude come back? Well, to be completely honest, I don't know. He could be brought back as a replacement for Phone Guy in a new FNAF game since Phone Guy died, but the game would have to take place pretty late in the FNAF timeline, because it would need to be around the time FNAF 3 happened or after, because Phone Dude seems pretty young. So honestly, bringing Phone Dude back in a future FNAF game is no easy task, and honestly, I would be fine if Phone Dude wasn't brought back, because there is really no reason for him to be brought back. Phone Dude could easily be replaced by a brand new character in a new Sid and Survive point-and-click FNAF game and in major 3D games like Security Breach. Even though I think Phone Dude is underappreciated and underrated, I don't mind if he doesn't come back. Keep in mind that all of the things I just said were my opinion. Comment down which characters you think are underrated. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I would really appreciate it if you liked, commented, or maybe even subscribed. This was GameSpeaking, and goodbye.